Do you ever have still images hanging out in your brain after having watched the movie? And every time you think about the movie, it's the same frames that keep coming back. I mean, I do, but why, you know? What is it about those particular frames that make them stick? And by the way, spoilers for the menu coming up all throughout this video. After watching the menu, my mind kept drifting back to these two frames, but before we can really talk about them, we need a quick outline of the story. And the premise goes: a young couple travels to a remote island to eat in an exclusive restaurant where the chef has prepared a lavish menu with some shocking surprises. Shocking is the right word. We experience the story mostly through Margot Mills, who was invited by Tyler to accompany him to restaurant Hawthorne and take part in this special menu. Straight off the bat, we get a sense that Margot and Tyler doesn't quite fit in with the rest of the group. All the other guests have a sense of upper class about them, but not these two. Margot especially feels like a fish out of water, and that's because she is. In fact, Margot, unlike the other guests, weren't supposed to be at Hawthorne to begin with. It turns out that Tyler was supposed to have brought his ex-girlfriend, but because of his breakup, he brought Margot instead.
See, Tyler knew what was gonna go down at Hawthorne.
Big spoiler alert! Everyone dies. Well, nearly everyone.
But he brought Margot anyway because the restaurant doesn't offer seatings for a single person. And he didn't exactly just bring her along. In fact, he hired her to come with them. It turns out that Margot, whose real name is Erin by the way, works as an escort for a living. We're told this during an eye-opening conversation between her and the head chef Julian Slowik about what it is to be a service industry worker in whatever shape or form. Slowik is on edge about Erin's presence because he's designed the menu with certain people in mind.
No, I'm sorry, but you're all wrong.
But although he doesn't want to kill her, he still intends to go through with his plan.
Now she's here, there's no way around it, so the only thing he can offer Erin is whether she wants to die with those who give or those who take. To Slowik, this menu is about principle and ideology, which we'll talk more about in a bit, and he is so dead set on finishing his vision that he's not going to let Erin get in the way of that. So when she finally figures out a way to weasel and escape using restaurant customs, it is bittersweet for Slowik, because he can now realize his vision as he intended, and he is happy that she gets out. But judging by his demeanor right here, he kinda reels it in a bit. The menu suddenly doesn't mean the same to him as it did prior to Erin's arrival. However, I think there's a sense of thankfulness to him here in the end. And I think that's why this frame really stood out to me. It's because he pulls that sly smile while he's making the burger. Earlier when him and Erin were having that conversation about being service industry workers, she asks him if he enjoys providing his services, to which he responds,
Oh, I used to, but I haven't desired to cook for someone in ages. And one does miss that feeling.
And I'm fairly confident in saying that Slowik never thought he'd experience that feeling again, given that he's pretty dead set on the whole dying part later that evening. But here, in this moment, he's granted that feeling again, that desire to cook for someone that he's been sorely missing. So in a way, Erin is giving him an unexpected and invaluable gift. During those few minutes of cooking the cheeseburger, he's transported back to his youth, a better time when he was happy simply flipping burgers. I mean, just from looking at his expression right here, it's easy to tell that cooking was everything to this man. You know, it's like, it's hard not to smile with him, right? I think that's why this moment was so special. Anyway, the next frame. There's a few reasons why this moment really got pinned to my brain. First of all, it's the last frame of the movie right before it cuts to credits, but there's something more to it. The way she bites into it is so aggressive, like, Rum! I mean, there's anger there, right? Even though she managed to get out. And yeah, there's also definitely a sense of calm there on the boat after she escaped, but her facial expression and her eyes staring so intensely as she bites into the burger speaks to the fact that there's something more going on. Notice the audio as well. For me, that high pitch tells me something about her inner thoughts in that moment, and the slap that follows definitely has some deeper meaning to it. Listen to this. Not only is it the exact same sound, but it is also accompanied by that very same high pitch, which I think in general is meant to communicate a sense of uneasiness, you know, like, ugh. And on top of that, Erin has a reaction to it every time it happens. She's shocked, she flinches, and she gets annoyed. It seems that this sound is evoking something from her past, and if we take another look at this conversation between her and Slowik, we get this little moment right here.
No, I don't need details. I mean, I know what a bad customer is.
somewhere between Slowik's sad expression, Erin's slight nod, and the ominous music that follows, there's a deeper meaning. The fact that Erin has such strong reactions to the clap probably suggests that she's experienced violent customers in the past, because the sound of a clap made with that kind of force is identical to the sound of a violent slap. And I think, in this moment, in this bite, there might even be a decision made to quit being an escort for good. After all, it's what got her there in the first place, and after such a traumatizing experience, along with that kind of betrayal by Tyler, on top of the fact that she doesn't enjoy it anymore, I think it's safe to say that she's about to change up her line of work. So, those are the frames that stuck to my mind for days after watching the film. But we're not quite done yet, because there's something else about the menu that is pretty crucial to talk about in order to really get the film. And that is that the entire movie is a commentary on social classes, and it is definitely one of, if not the most important aspect of the story. It's what I would call
the bigger picture.
And when I watched the movie for the very first time, I didn't see the bigger picture, I just felt it, you know? Like, sure, I got what he was saying about shit shovelers and the whole die with those who give or those who take stuff, but I was so invested in the different character motivations and feelings that I didn't really look at it from any other angle than this man is a psycho and he's killing people who kind of deserve it, and our good girl protagonist gets away. Boom. Good narrative. But the thing is, towards the end, Slowik seems a bit more idealistic than vengeful. Sure, he fucking despises his guests,
You donkey.
but I believe that part of his ideology is believing that only in death will the social classes be obsolete. Which does have a twisted truth to it, at least the people who die, right? Also, notice earlier when Slowik is in the kitchen with his staff.
Plating in 5.
Yes, Chef!
I love you all.
We love you too, Chef!
In this moment, Slowik has all the love for his team, his comrades,
Plating in 3, my friends.
Yes, Chef!
and all the hate for his guests. But in their moment of unified death, Slowik is able to once again utter, "I love you all," although this time it is for both the staff and the guests, because the social classes have ceased to be. Additionally, at first, I found it a little curious how they all just sit there as they literally burn to death. I mean, no one is even trying to flee, but then again, they can't escape. There are guys armed with chef's knives at the door, aka the only way out. So, would you rather burn to death or get stabbed to death? Pick your poison. Although, in reality, I think that pretty much everyone dies from the gas explosion, so it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But the lack of escape attempts in this situation makes it feel like they've all just accepted their fate and accepted that they deserve punishment. Slowik is not only serving them a meal and serving them death, he's serving them their own desire to be punished. We all have a moral compass, and most of us, unless we're psychotic, have a sense of right and wrong. Once you distance yourself from the bad things you've done, you know that you deserve to be punished for those sins.
Thank you.
And quite possibly, this is what Slowik showed them, and it is why they're able to yell out that they love him back.
We love you, Chef!
And I mean, in between all these twisted truths lies the fact that Slowik is a flippin' psychopath, alright? And we know that it probably stems from childhood trauma. Witnessing his dad make an attempt on his mother's life probably definitely scarred him deeply. Take that kind of trauma and pair it with a few twisted ideals, and you've got yourself a very dangerous man. I'm gonna give this movie a solid A tier. It was very enjoyable at first watch, and it only got better as I started analyzing it. Great performances, very decent cinematography that really has its moments, and lastly, an interesting narrative. Overall, a really good watch. Well, that's it for me. Hope you liked the video. I got more coming, so subscribe if you're into it, and I'll see you in the next one. Also, what frame stuck to your mind after watching the movie? Let me know down below, that's genuinely interesting. Anyway, bye!